Hello everyone, this is Yash Kumar Verma again with a stream in which we were discussing about open source software and Hacktoberfest. So before we move forward, I'm really sorry for the interruptions that we had in the previous live stream. My keyboard malfunctioned and therefore it crashed my system. It didn't work after that. So we had to end the stream at that particular time. So really sorry for that. Now moving on to the part that we had left in the previous stream that we had. Now we had discussed about open source. We had discussed about basics of Git and GitHub and how they're very important to get started in the world of open source. We had a small talk about Hacktoberfest, the program that's there to promote open source. And if you make 4 pull requests, you would get a T-shirt. Or if you're very much concerned about the environment, then you can also ask them to plant trees on that behalf. And the final part was that in which we were discussing about the open source projects to which you can contribute and how exactly to make a pull request on any particular project. Now, we have had a few hands on sessions, and this was the final one in the series, which mainly dealt with finding projects to contribute and submitting pull requests. Now, the when we talk about finding projects to contribute, this is something that is very different for each and every person. The reason behind that is, some people prefer a particular language over others. For instance, I prefer Golang and JavaScript when I want to develop, backends or web technologies. My friend might be working more in Java, someone might be working more in Python. So it's different for different people. Uh, and also, even if the languages match, sometimes there are different type of things that people want to do. Some people want to explore the extremes of the software. They want to find the limits to which the software breaks. They get into the quality testing part, and they can find vulnerabilities in the software and basically point out the holes in the security and all those things. Then there are people who want to add more features to the project. There are people who want to test those. There is a very big community that's interested in writing documentation for open source projects, for APIs, and different things. There's also a very big community that's into porting software from one language to the other. That's happening from Golang right now, and this is very common if you check the open source projects. Now, the all the advice that we can give about finding projects to contribute is there are numerous programs that are running like Outreachy, and there's Google Summer of Code, there's Google Season of Talks, and then we have MLH Fellowship as well, where different big open source organizations come up and they share their projects. They are basically inviting people to have a look at them, like get familiar with the code bases so that they can contribute to them. So it does not basically matter if you make it through Google Summer of Code or not. I mean, yeah, it does matter. But in terms of open source, you can all even if you're not selected for the organization, you can still make contributions to it. So that is something that would be very beneficial if you take it that way. And that is basically it when it comes to finding projects to contribute. You just open the site of Google Summer of Code or MLH Fellowship, or you check the documentations and you see what all projects that program accepts, and then maybe you can pick one or two of them. Or it's not only that you need to pick up very big projects. Try starting something with a group of your friends and launch it on GitHub. Share it with your maybe college communities, technical communities, and that way also it can happen. So it's not necessarily that you need to get a third party project and then only it would be called open source contributions. You can even start it by yourself as well. Now moving on to the practical part of this particular hands-on time, it was about sending pull requests. So what I've done is, okay, I'll be stopping the presentation now and then moving on to the browser so that I can show you at the same time as I'm speaking about it. So I'll be closing this presentation now. Okay. So what I've done is I have this particular account that's known as Yash Kumar Verma dashboard, and all the nasty things that I do with my GitHub account is done using this. So I'm not polluting my personal GitHub account for it. So what we're doing is, let us assume that this is some project. Now you can see I've already explained you the what's a repository on GitHub and what are issues and all the things. So let us assume that this is a some project on GitHub, and that's why I've named it some project itself, right? So you can see that the GitHub interface is there in front of you. You have this watch if you want to get notified about everything, and then you have the stars. I'll star it as well, and I'll watch it as well. Watching, I'll be notified about all the issues and the pull requests that are being made for this particular project. Now you see that there are very limited files in this. There's this getignore file, there's this license file, and there's the readme file. Now, whenever you come across any project on GitHub, you would always see a tab like this, unless it's a very exceptional case. And you would see a tab like this which says issues. So you click on it, and then you would see the issues that people have filed on the project. Now you see there are these three issues that are set up by the author itself. And you see the first is star the repository here. I mean, this is high level spam over here. So the first is star the repository, the second is add hello world, and third is update readme. Now GitHub has this awesome feature that's those are labels. So in labels, what happens is you can basically add a label to it, and then you can, when you click on the label, you can get all the pull requests or all the issues that are attached to the same label. So if I click on good first issue, then all the issues that have the same label come up here. Now we had only one here, so that's showing up. Okay, so also there's a very important thing. It's not always required that it's not always necessary that you would get an issue opened by someone else. Many a times you might be required to open an issue yourself, because okay, let's see this project and let's try to find something that we could change in this. Let's see the license file. Usually people are discouraged from making changes to license files because they usually count as spam, especially in the Hacktoberfest time. So always try to follow the guidelines and not fall into the category of spam. So okay, let's say that we do not have any problem with the project right now, and we only want to solve the issue that's already given there. And we come to the issues tab, and here we see that let us add this. Okay, let's update the readme. So whenever you open any issue, you would see an issue body written over here. So this basically is the description of what exactly is the problem. So this is the heading and this is the body. It says the readme is outdated. Send a PR to update it. Okay. So now you want to send a PR. So what's a PR? A PR is a pull request. So would be sending a pull request to it. So in order to make changes to something, you must first have it. If I say make a program and then change it. So first of all, you need to have the program, right? So in GitHub, what we do is you see this nice little button over here, that's fork. So it says fork your own copy of your some project to your account. So I would be forking it to my personal account. Now what would happen is I would get a copy of this project, and it would assume that it's photocopying it, and it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, it basically gets the entire copy of the project to your account. And now you can see the URL has changed to Yash Kumar Verma / some project. You have seen that, okay, and it says that it has been forked from this particular handle. Okay, so once we have forked, now you see that all these things are currently on the server. Now I had told you that in order to get something from the server to your own client machine, means you want to make a clone of this thing on your local machine, then there is a very simple command, that's git clone. Okay, and in the git clone, you just copy the URL that's over here, or if you want, these are also given here, HTTPS and all those. So you just make it simple and copy it from here and then paste it here. It says cloning into some project. Now the name of the repository that is here, a directory of the same name would be found. So we open it, cd some project, and now we see that it has two files. Are there actually two files? Wait, L. Now you see that it has three files, and basically four files. The first is the readme file, that's here. The license file, the .git directory, it contains all the things that we do with Git. For instance, you're creating a new commit or a checkpoint, then that has to be saved somewhere, right? So all this information is stored in the .git directory, and then you have the .git ignore file. I'll be telling a bit about it later on. So I'll open my favorite code editor, VS Code, in this particular directory. Okay. So now let's reference the issue back that we were trying to solve. Now, each and every issue and pull request on GitHub has a unique ID. So I'll tell you how to find out the ID of the project. You see this particular hash written right here, hash1, or just in case sometimes people might write numbers in the heading itself. I say, okay, I can't edit right now. Can I? Okay. Yeah. So you check out the address bar on the top, and you would see that issues/1. So 1 is the ID of this issue. So what I'll do is, it says the readme is outdated, send a PR to update it. So I open the readme and then I open a terminal for it as well. So I'll be explaining the concept of branch as well, but that would be later on, because if I combine 3 or 4 concepts at once, you would end up understanding none of them. And it's also very confusing because I took a significant amount of time in understanding how branches worked. So let's keep it simple and just make a pull request for now. So let's some project. Now you might be wondering what this syntax is. This is Markdown. Markdown is a markup language, and I'll zoom it for you. So Markdown is a markup language which allows you to, it can be compiled into HTML whenever you want. So it's easier to write it like this, obviously, because you can easily write this rather than this. Basically compiles down to this. Okay. So this is equivalent of this. So when we are writing in Markdown, we do not need to write all the HTML tags. There's a particular syntax for it. Our community would be sharing the link for Markdown references, which you can refer for further things. So some project. Okay. Let us say that this is the change that we want to make. Now, if you're using a good code editor, it would definitely have integration with Git. I guess all the code editors have an integration with Git. But still, for the sake of simplicity, let's not dive more into it. I would just be explaining the Git CLI to you. So you do git status. I'll zoom out because now the font is too big to be shown. So I do git status, and you see that this one particular file is changed. So I say git add all, or you could have also have done git add readme.md. Both of them do the same thing. And then you do git, and let's check what has happened after we have added the files. You see it says the changes to be committed. Now these changes have come under the radar of Git. Now Git knows that these changes have been made. Now let's make a checkpoint out of it, or let's make a commit out of it. So git commit, and then you can say -m. -m says, at one particular point of time, your project would have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of commits. For instance, if you say VS Code, the number of commits in this is 71,858. So now you know that you need some method to differentiate between these. So that is the reason we add commit messages. So the commit message I want to add is updating readme. Okay. You see that yes, one file is changed. We inserted 7 characters and then deleted 2 or lines or whatever the notion is. So now let's do git status again. We say that there are no more changes to be committed. It means that since the last checkpoint, we have made no more changes that need to be merged. So let's do git push. Now, as I've already told, git pull means getting things from the server, and git push means sending data to the server. It means you're pushing data from your end to the other end. Now let's refresh it. Nothing's here. The reason? The reason is that when we have forked and cloned it, the entire changes that we are making, every like the push and the pull, whatever we are doing it not from this particular project. We are not editing anything from here. We are changing our own local copy that exists. So if I open this project in my personal account that I see, you see that the README is updated. Now it says some project learning to use GitHub. This is the best project in the world. So now you can see the difference that because I've forked it, so all the changes are done to the copy that is on my account and not on the main account that is. So the main account or the main copy of the same project, it does not have the changes that we have done, but the account that is our own account and we have just pushed to it, because at any particular point of time there might be hundreds or thousands of people making changes, right? So everyone does not write to the main code directly. What they do is they write to their own local copy and then push it to the server. Now the repository hosted on the server has the work. Now what I need to do is, you see this branch is one commit ahead of the main thing. So what we do is, it has two options. We can compare the changes and then we can send a pull request. Let us send a pull request. I've just clicked on this. Now let's see what happens. It would compare the changes. So you can just quickly move from this and okay. It would ask you for the heading, the title, and then some comments about it. You say updating readme, and then you see updating readme to include the motive for the project. Now, many times you might see some text written already in here. That is a template that project authors can set up. So we did not have something like that. So this is just to inform you that just in case you come across, you're making a pull request and then you see a whole lot of content written over here that you yourself have not written. So don't be afraid. So, and then the second tab is preview, because sometimes people want to preview what they have done. So let us see that I add a bit of styling to it. And then when I click on preview, I can see that, okay, the readme has been bold. Now I click on the create pull request. Now you see the pull request has been made. And if you check the URL on top, that is dashboard. It means that we are here on the original project. And the ID for it is 4, and that's also given in the URL itself as 4. Now you might think that, okay, you have updated the readme. We were accessing, we did all this because we saw some issue. How do we link the issue to this particular pull request? If someone comes across this pull request, assume that you are the maintainer. Okay, the maintainer would see something like this. Now I have opened the maintainer account now. The maintainer would come and then they would see, okay, someone has made a pull request. They would open the pull request and it says updating readme. Now, again, as the project grows, the number of issues would be in thousands and thousands. So I see, okay, this fellow has made some changes to the readme, but why has he done it? He's saying updating readme to include the motive of the project, but who asked for this? I mean, why exactly is someone doing this? So that is the reason we need to include the issue that we are solving in the pull request. So now I'm back to the contributor side. Okay. So what you need to do is you click on this edit part and then you enter hash, and basically when you press hash you would see all the IDs that are here. So let's say I see hash1 and just say fix hash1. Okay. So there was an issue that had the ID 1, and what we are saying is fix hash1. It means this particular pull request will fix the hash1 or the pull request or the issue which had the ID 1. Now to the right hand side, you can see it says the linked issues, and there you see the updated readme issue. Now you see that you have linked an issue to your pull request using the hash, method or whatever you want to call it. So by using this particular hash character, you can link different IDs. So now I'm shifting to whenever I am in the incognito mode, that is the dark, what is it, the dark mode? No, it isn't. Okay. Whenever I'm in the dark top bar mode, this is the developer, this is the maintainer mode. So you see, okay, now this person has linked an issue to it. Let me just refresh it once. Now the maintainer sees, and yes, now there's also one very important thing, that since the open source community is so welcoming to everyone, GitHub allows you to play the card that you're a first time contributor, and many a times the maintainers would be extra helpful towards you, and some of them would basically, even if your code is not exactly what they want, just in case, if you just because you have this particular tag over here, it says the first time contributor, this user is a first time contributor to the repository. It tells the author that this person is working with the project for the first time. So just keep that in mind whenever you are making any suggestions, or whenever you are replying to the comments or anything. On the top, or like on the right side, you can see it has the linked issues. Now, as I have the project maintainer side open, you can see that I have these options to merge pull requests and all those things. And now I'm back to the contributor side. And on the contributor side, there's nothing like that. You can do absolutely nothing right now. You've made the pull request, and then that is all you can do. You can just wait until a maintainer comes across your work, and then they would merge it or not, or they can request changes. So I'm back to the maintainer side. In the maintainer side, let's see that. Let me review. Let me ask for a few changes. I see these two lines, and I say, now, the reason that I'm showing this to you is I want you to know what happens when you're on the maintainer part, because at some point you would be hosting your project on GitHub and someone might send a PR to it. So you must know how to handle those. So I say remove empty line. And I say start a review. And here I say I'm requesting changes. So now whosoever had sent the PR, now right now I am in the maintainer side. Now beware, I'm moving to the contributor side. I'm in the contributor side now. You see, the bot has requested me. The name is just a bot. It's the maintainer right now. It says the remove empty line. So what you can do is you open the project that you had, and you just remove all the empty lines that you had interested out of interest. You had inserted out of interest. You save it, and then you do git status. It would tell us the changes that we have made. It says that yes, you have modified the readme.md file. You git add readme.md file dash remove spaces, remove blank lines, and then you do git push again. Okay, it says it is pushed. Now, okay, white top bar, it means you're on the contributor side. You can see that it says our new commit has started showing here, and now we can say that remove the line. You can tell whatever you have done. I've made a commit to remove the empty lines, and then you can comment it. And if you think that this thing has been resolved or no further actions or need to be taken on it, you can resolve it from your end. Okay, and then one changes was requested. Okay, now I am shifting to the maintainer part, and they would see, let's refresh it once, and they would see the reply that you have sent, and then new changes since your last viewed this, and they say that okay, one new commit has been added. So what I wanted is done. I would just simply merge this pull request, and this is it. This is the end of the entire journey of finding an issue, working on it, finding an issue, and then forking the project, then cloning it to your local machine, then working on the changes, then committing the changes, then pushing the changes to your local account, then sending a pull request, and this is where everything comes to an end when your changes are merged. So as you can see that the changes that we had made are now merged, and then you can see that this project shows that they have merged the pull request that was id #4, and you can also see the changes as well in the project. So this is as I've already said, that this is the entire where this is the place where the entire contributions come to an end when your pull request is merged, and then you can see your project, and then you can see your work in any of the big project. And that is what the satisfaction of open source, that is from where the satisfaction of open source comes from. You see your project is being used by thousands and thousands of developers across the globe, and even the minor changes that you do are significant when you scale it to that level, because minor bugs can often cause chain effects and the data system goes down. So okay, I hadn't shown opening new issue. So open issue can be opened two ways, I guess. Yes, and the first is that you can select a bunch of lines. Let's see, I select this much line, and from here I do reference in a new issue. So if something is wrong with this particular selection of lines, you see a reference in a new issue, you click on it, and then GitHub would automatically embed those lines. So if you click on preview over here, you would see that it has already linked the file and the file numbers that we had selected, and write whatever you want to write over here in order so that the other people or the maintainers or authors can understand what you're trying to point out here. So we say that what this? Okay, logs. Let's say that we are not creating logs, so we don't need this file. Okay. And then you can click here on submit new issue. Now when you submit a new issue, now last time we solved someone else's issue, and we can now solve this particular issue as well using the same particular method. Now if someone else would come across the project, and then they would see the issue that you had opened there. So let us see. Yes, you see unwanted lines in file, and this has been assigned an ID 5. So if you are sending a pull request for this, you can always add a hash fix, and then you can just in order to link any other entity that can be issue a pull request, you can also link pull request, because sometimes people make duplicate pull requests, and you want to tell the maintainers that okay, these 3 pull requests are for the same thing, so you can do that, do like #2, #3, #4 are all duplicate of each other, we can close them. So that way it can be done. So just in case you find out that okay, you opened this issue, and then you found out that okay, this was not actually the problem. This was, let's assume that okay, this might be a legitimate thing in the example, but let us assume that you opened an issue for something that you thought was, this is not right, I did a mistake over there. So on the bottom left side, you would see it is written close issue here. So in close issue, by clicking the close issue button, you tell that okay, the issue that I raised, it was not correct, or it was by mistake, so you want to close it. So let's say that I want to close this issue, so I say closing as the file is a template, and then I say the close with comments. So whosoever comes after this, they can clearly see that why exactly was this issue closed, because it was closing as the file is a template. So this is very helpful, because over a period of time when the project grows, it might be difficult for someone else who comes across, who's just skimming through all the issues that are there in the repository, and then they see that okay, someone closed the issue but don't know why. So they might go about asking people, tagging different people, and then it would become very difficult for the maintainers and the contributors as well to sort that kind of situation. So it's always good that whatever actions you're doing, opening a pull request, always write meaningful content to that, or when you're opening an issue, always make sure that you try to include as much information as possible and try to make it to the point. Yes, yeah. You might think that I'm saying contradicting things, that include as much information as possible, and then try to make it to the point as possible. The thing is that you need to specify the problem directly if you can. Now I can say that okay, whenever I open a site, I see this. Now this is a very general problem that a lot of people might have. Okay, you see, okay, let us assume that you have made a front end in which the button is misplaced. So if you just file an issue in which you say the button is misplaced, and then you just file an issue like that. So let us do like that. I say a new issue is that button misplaced, and then we say that the button is misplaced. Now, let's assume that you've submitted this issue, and no matter if the button was on the home page itself, the maintainer comes and he sees that, okay, there are 3 issues in my project. Let us see what are those. And he says that, okay, button is misplaced. The button is misplaced. So, for any third person, it is very difficult to find the context of this. So, whenever you're doing like this, that is what you want to include as much information as possible. So if it's a UI thing, then you can always I would recommend if it's a UI thing, you can always grab a screenshot of it and then just include the screenshot wherever you want, and then you see the button on the home page is misplaced. I've updated the comment. Now, if someone comes across this particular issue, they would see that, okay, the button was misplaced and the button on the home page was misplaced, and then they've seen the screenshot. Now, this is a I know this was not a very clear cut example, but I guess you can understand the point that you must be as informative as possible when describing the issues. The reason is someone else might not have the same context that you have about the problem. So many a times you would waste a lot of time in which the other contributors or the other authors would like ping you and ask you a question, and then you might take 3 or 4 hours, and then the contributor would ask a few more questions, and then this way there'd be a lot of delay in the project that in the resolution of your issue. So whenever you're trying to make issues, just make sure that you include all the information that you can. So I guess this is it on the demonstration of how to send a PR. We have done basically almost everything that we do apart from handling branches. So branches, you can read up more about it. And the session would be, I guess, way too long if I go about branches. So just to explain branches, so let's just do a Google search and see if we could get a nice. I'm searching for a diagram of branches. So this is how branches works in short. So the master has been renamed as main. So master or main, that is one stream or one branch that goes. Whenever you want to implement something new, you open a new branch from it. And whenever you open a new branch, the reason for that is you want to not mess up the work that you are doing and someone else is doing. Let me demonstrate that. So for instance, say this was the project that was going on. Then what you did was you started a new branch from here. Okay, and then you started working on it. And okay, let us assume that when there are no branches. So when there are no branches, what you would do is you would start creating changes over here. Now the problem that might come up from this is you cannot work on anything else. Now you might think that, okay, I'm working on this particular one thing. Why would I need to work on different things at once? You might not be the one working on it, but as the projects grow, there can be like 4 or 5 developers working on one particular feature. So they can also not edit the files that are being changed here because you have changed the original files, right? You have changed the code that was there for everyone, and you were just experimenting a new thing. And then when you see that, okay, I did not create a branch and I've just changed the main code of your software. Now this can be very difficult to handle in any situation. You've just changed the main code of your project. You are just experimenting anything and you just change the main code of the project, and now you're all messed up. So what we do is we create branches for that. So how do we create a branches? Let's see that you've created a branch from here, and then now you're working here. You do whatever mess you want to do in here, and just in case if it doesn't work up, you can just close it over here. And then let us say that okay, it worked nicely till here. Now what we do is we move forward from here. One of your colleague came, and then what they did was they branched off from here, and then they started working on the feature. They did some nice additions, and then your company says, or the project maintainer says that okay, let us merge this. So now you see that this particular branch. Now what branches have allowed you to do is the main project code that was there, it was stable throughout the time. You were not creating any random changes to it, right? It was safe to use from the starting itself. Now, from this particular time, let us say that this line 8 is, I'll remove everything. 1 is the master branch, 2 was the first. One was the master branch, and one was the master of the main branch, 2 and 3 were the feature branches. So what we see that, okay, you can do any mess that you want to do, you can experiment anything, and it would not affect the change, it would not affect the state of your main project that was there. So this allows us to work on different features at once. This allows us to experiment new things without thinking more about what happens if we fail. So here, just in case if you see that you created a nice little mess over here, but then you close the branch, right? And it made no effect on the main branch. And just assume that you would have not made this branch, then this much part of your project would be a complete mess, and then there would be no way to move back. Obviously, yes, you can move back, you can undo the commits and all those things, but then it becomes very complex. Let me be very frank with that. It is doable, but it becomes very complex when you do that. So the best way to tackle that is you create branches, and then you work on different branches for different things. So this is basically it. And if you want to just explore the branches, you can do git branch, and then you see all the branches that are there. Now let us assume that you want to create a new branch. So we say git checkout -b, and I say new branch. Okay, it says switch to a new branch. Let us do git status. It says nothing, but let us do git branch. It says that there are two branches, main and new branch. The new branch is the one that is currently active. So let us do something. Let us remove everything. Okay. Now if we do git status, sorry, that was a shortcut. Git status, it sees that okay. Now let us assume that one of your teammate is just experimenting what happens if someone deletes all the files, and then he does a commit. I cleaned everything. Okay, I did not add the changes. That is why it says changes are not staged for commit. So whenever you do git add dot, so we are basically adding everything to the stage, and then you commit it, and then you do git status. Let us see what happens. Now let us just push it. Okay. Okay. Now what we are doing is we just mentioned, or do not focus much on the origin and the new branch thing right now. So GitHub tells us that okay, you've created a new branch. Now let us try exploring the project, and this would be the last part of the demonstration. Okay. Now you see that it says I have cleaned everything, and you see there's only one file, and then you remember okay, and then your team decides that whatever we did was not the right thing to do, and now you're all messed up. So what would you do? So just because we created a branch, you see we have the main and then we have the new branch. If you check out the main branch, it still has all the code that is there. So it is exactly what we happened. We created a new branch, and then we created a mess over here. Now let us see that this much has happened, and if you want to move back to this state, right? So how do we do that? So in your local machine, you do git branch, and then you see there were two branches, right? The main and the new branch. This is the main branch, and this is the new branch. Let us remove this, okay? This is the main branch and the new branch. You see we have completely messed up the new branch, and then we have stopped the development. Now let us move back to the main branch. So to do that, it's very simple. You do git branch, And then you see the list of all the branches. You do git checkout. Checkout, it means you're checking out what's happening. So you do git checkout main. Now, when I do a ls, you would see that the license and the readme files are back. And if I say git logs, you see that everything is just the way that we had expected it to be. So we are back on this particular place where we had the main branch. So I guess this was not a very diagrammatic representation, but I guess I tried a bit of explaining the branches. Now, just in case if you're not very well familiar with the branches, try reading up about it. And if you have any problems in using those, feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to assist you in that as well. Now, the hands-on session has ended and we would be moving to the final part, which basically tells about what after Hacktoberfest. You came, you saw Hacktoberfest, and then you're thinking, okay, Hacktoberfest was a nice little thing, I've got a T-shirt, I've got pull request, I have a nice green GitHub timeline, and then you say, what now? So then there are a lot of further steps that you can take up. There are different programs that are launched. So I would just be quickly skimming through those. So the first is Google Summer of Code. Now these are not the only programs that are there. Let me make that very clear. There are many programs that are happening. These are just the few that I could write down in a few seconds. So Google Summer of Code, it is a very prestigious. All of these are very prestigious, and Google Summer of Code obviously is organized by Google, and you get to work on different organizations on numerous projects. Then there's Google Season of Talks. If you are interested in working on the talks and you have like very nice writing skills, then definitely this is the place that needs you. Then this is Coding Blogs Boss. That's Bountiful Open Source Summer. Yes, yeah, Bountiful Open Source Summer, and they do not have a cash prize like Google Summer of Code or Google Season of Talks, but they, as the name tells, bounty. They have like bounties attached to different items. This year they had a Surface Pro and different things for prizes. Then we have the Outreachy. It's again an internship alternative like the MLH Fellowship. So Outreachy and MLH Fellowship and the CNCF Fellowship as well, Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So what did the last three would basically hook you to a project that they have a partner, and they would assign you a mentor, and then you would work with the mentor on that project for a particular period of time. So these are like very good opportunities to learn from people who have actually gained a lot of experience in the industry, and you get to interact with them to a point that you see them daily almost. Like I was in the MLH Fellowship, and this was the most exciting and the most educational, and whatever words you want to put in there, it was the most everything kind of a thing that I'd ever done. So yes, these fellowships and the internship alternatives are really good, and they also give you a nice GitHub profile which would stay with you even after these programs end. So that was all, and thanks to our friends from SlidesGo, from which if you like the design of this slide, this was a template from SlidesGo. This is a free template, so it's always good to accredit the original authors for that. So thanks to SlidesGo for this presentation. And this was all for the program. If you have any more doubts, feel free to reach out any of our community members at GDG Goa, and would be more than happy to help. This is Yash Kumar Verma, signing off. Bye-bye. Thank you.